I guess I'm not real thrilled about your typical zoo. You know, the way the animals are just caged in small enclosures. Kind of like all of us right now. Enclosures of our homes. Locked down, baby. Yeah, lockdown. Anyway, regarding the issue of mortality and the preciousness of health and everything, I guess what's got me thinking about all that is not necessarily this virus, or maybe it is in conjunction with the virus. You know what? On last Monday, or even the Saturday before last Monday, what was that, the 11th of March, I was contacted by a young lady that I really have only met once, maybe twice, who was a daughter of one of my former co-workers, and she contacted me on Saturday. I didn't recognize the number, and I typically screen calls I do not know with the text saying, please text me, and so she did. And she said, all right, this is Becky, could you call me please? And I kind of immediately knew that something terribly tragic was going on, because she would never contact me. I've been through that with the loss of my own son. But anyway, so I called her, and yes, immediately I asked her if she was going to level some very tragic news, and she broke down in tears and told me that yes, my dad just passed away recently, and she said, I thought you would like to know, because he had a special place in his heart for you, and you were a good friend to him, and yes, we were co-workers. We weren't really friends in the natural social sense that you hang out and you spend time with your friends. But my co-worker Toby, I worked with him for about 13 years. I think I've already talked about him at some point. Yes, I have in one of my videos. But anyway, Toby was a special individual. He's an individual who made a lot of bad choices in life, but owned up to them. He lived through hell, and rather than getting embittered and resentful towards whatever, because he made the choices, he just became an incredibly tender individual. And he was a big guy, but you know what, he had a special place in my heart just because of his demeanor, his just a beautiful guy. And to lose him was really it was really tough. I don't you know what, there have been people who have obviously died and continue to die, and I've had a former pastor that I loved who just passed away, and just around Christmas time, and you know, these are people that I loved. But Toby, for some reason, I'll tell you what, that really struck my heart. I wept for him. I mean, I don't cry easy, you know. I mean, I do, but I don't. But I wept for him. I mean, I kind of struggle with that when I start weeping over situations like that. Am I weeping for myself, or am I weeping for him? I don't know how that works, and I wrestled with God about that. But anyway, I wept for Toby. It struck me at heart. And so his daughter Becky arranged a memorial service for him at the cemetery, and there were about a dozen of us that showed up, and it was sweet closure. It was sweet, sweet closer. I hadn't seen him in about 2.5 years, and he popped up my front porch on Thanksgiving morning, this past Thanksgiving. It was such a joy to see him and his daughter, Giovanna. It was like he lifted me right up off the ground. I don't know why. I was feeling bluesy that day, and he just lifted me up. Like, what are you doing here? But I love it. And I squeezed his daughter, and I held on to her, and I think she was probably thinking to herself. Now, not that I was a stranger to Giovanna. He used to bring her into the shop, so I'd see her pretty regularly, and her and I teased, we played around a lot. But I grabbed her, and I wouldn't let go. Yeah, on Thanksgiving, and I think she felt the love. I think she did. But the awkward irony is that at the memorial service, I was told I could not wrap my arms around Giovanna, who is about 10 years old, or Becky, Toby's other daughter, that informed me, notified me. Just so awkward. When everything in you is saying, just grab that person, wrap your arms around that person, and love on them, because they considered you worthy to be in the presence of family in the course of the memorial. Oh, and I couldn't do that. It was so freaking weird. That was Monday. And then Tuesday at 7:30, and I just looked at my phone records. Tuesday at 7:30, I have another coworker who works at my side at my current place of employment. She was there before I was. We worked together for 2 years. Her name is Kathy. And Kathy brought me into the business where I'm now working, and she became a sweet friend in the course of 2 years. Her and I'd go out, have some tequilas together, and yak it up. And Kathy was like that. Kathy was obese, though. She was very unhealthy. She had a broken heart because she lost her husband about a dozen years ago. And then she lost her mother. And she has one sibling with whom she has no relationship. Her dad's been gone for decades. But in the course of the loss of her husband, Kathy just let herself go, and things got foul for her with regard to her health. And she ended up suffering a stroke about 1.5 years ago, which compromised her dexterity. She's we're both trade jewelers, so you have to work with pliers, you have to work with minute, miniature little pieces of metal and stones and stuff, and she was compromised, but she still kept coming in. She wanted to give it a go, give it a whirl, make it happen, and I was all for it. It wasn't easy, and my employer was all for it too. He's got a soft heart, and he didn't want to just excuse her in her state of sorrow and ill health and hopelessness. So she stayed on for about 1.5 years, and just this past Christmas, she decided that she'd had enough, because she applied for assistance, disability, and she received it. So the state granted her benefits, and she decided after receiving those benefits that she was going to quit coming in. And and that she would do a little bit of work at home. She had a bench that she can work at home, doing minor repairs, whatever. But anyway, I grew to love her like a sister. We agreed on things. We didn't agree on other things, but we had a good time together when we went out on occasion, which wasn't all too often, but it was a treat when we'd go out and just enjoy a couple of toddies together. Anyway, I ended up hiring on an individual with whom I worked about 35 years ago. Yeah, about 35 years ago, when my daughters were born, my twin daughters. I was working for this individual, and with respect to the loss of Kathy, I was able to bring in Lisa, who has worked out real well. We go way back, not real tight, but we go way back, and so she came in. But in the course of replacing Kathy with Lisa, of course, you start drifting apart. Communication isn't as regular as it normally is, and especially now that Kathy was compromised with the stroke. Her activity was lessened, and you start drifting apart. But anyway, I did keep in contact, just not as often as I would have liked to have done. But anyway, on Tuesday night, the 14th, I had been thinking about her quite a bit with all of this lockdown bullshit, and not that you would need to lock her down, because she's locked down naturally, being obese, having mobility problems because of the stroke that she suffered. She walks with a cane. She just doesn't do well. She doesn't get around very well. And I always worried about what would she do if a fire broke out in her apartment? How do you get out of quickly? But anyway, so I had been thinking about her, and I decided, what, I gotta text Kathy. I gotta find out. I gotta see how she's doing. And so I did. I texted her. I texted Kathy at around 7 Tuesday night, April 14th, and the first thing she, I told her, I texted her saying, what, I've been thinking about you, and I sent her a picture of my riding vest that I finally got the patches sewn onto, which I had always included her in as far as the design was concerned. And so I wanted to show her the finished product, and I said, I've been thinking about you, how you doing, what's going on, here's what it looks like, what do you think? And she texted me back saying, I have pneumonia, which she had when she fell victim to her stroke. And so, this wasn't going to be a texting, an ongoing communication via text mode. So I called her up, and she wouldn't answer. And I'm thinking, oh shit, what's going? What did I? What? And she texted me right back saying, I'm on the phone. And so I waited a bit, and I said, I waited a bit, and I got another text back that said something like, they told me everything is kind of all right, just to call them, that things get worse, go. And then she says, go ahead and call. So I did. and we spoke at length. You know, I talked to her at length about, you know, what in the world was going on, and she told me that she'd gone to the hospital about a week before that, and that they were very, I don't know, neglectful, rude. I don't know what, I don't even know how to describe it. They didn't, you know, she's an obese woman with mobility problems, walking with a cane, very slowly, you know, and she said they wouldn't give her a wheelchair. They didn't provide her a wheelchair. And then she said that they were all kind of like hands off. It's almost as if nobody wanted to touch her. And then she said they made her walk to an examination room. And she said, I mean, just she said, just think about that. They made me walk to an examination room. They could see that I was labored in my breathing. I've got pneumonia. They hadn't diagnosed it yet, but she said, you know, there I was with my cane hobbling along. I mean, obese, okay. Try to get the picture, and she's laboring with her breathing, and they're kind of like, okay, this way, we're not going to touch you, but walk this way, yeah, bullshit. So anyway, she said that they basically prescribed, after they took her vitals and diagnosed her with pneumonia, that they gave her some kind of prescription to something. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, she said that she refused the prescription. She said, you know what, she said she didn't refuse the prescription. She said, you know what, I can't get this filled. Most likely the pharmacy's going to be closed by the time I get there. Is there not something you can do for me? And so they gave her they filled the prescription there at the hospital, gave it to her. They had her ingest whatever it is that they had prescribed to her. And she said she vomited that up on a drive home, because you're supposed to take it with food, and she had an empty stomach. Look at this poor guy.